Nike's story begins in the most American way possible, with a dream, a track, and a beat-up car trunk. Phil Knight was a middle-distance runner at the University of Oregon. In the early 1960s, he noticed how Japanese brands were disrupting the American camera market. So he asked himself, could the same thing happen with shoes? Knight reached out to a Japanese brand called Onitsuka, known for its tiger running shoes, and started importing them into the US under a new company, Blue Ribbon Sports. At first, he sold them out of his car at local track meets. His business partner? His former coach, Bill Bowerman, a man obsessed with optimizing athletic performance. Bowerman didn't just coach runners. He experimented with shoe designs in his kitchen, famously inventing a new sole by pouring rubber into a waffle iron. Eventually, tensions rose between Blue Ribbon Sports and Onitsuka. So in 1971, Knight and Bowerman decided to go independent. They needed a new name and a new logo. The name they landed on? Nike, after the Greek goddess of victory. The logo? A student named Carolyn Davidson was paid $35 to create what we now know as the swoosh. She was told it should evoke movement and speed. Safe to say, she nailed it. In the beginning, Nike shoes were still made in Japan, but the focus quickly shifted to innovation, especially in soles, grip, and performance. The famous waffle trainer helped put Nike on the map among athletes, but something bigger was about to happen. In the late 70s and early 80s, Nike didn't just sell shoes, it sold an idea. Unlike other brands that focused on technical specs, Nike's advertising was aspirational. The message was emotional, not practical. In 1988, Nike launched a campaign that changed everything. It featured a simple, bold tagline: "Just do it." These three words became a rallying cry, not just for athletes, but for anyone chasing a goal. Nike invited the world to believe that greatness wasn't just for the elite, it was for everyone. At this point, Nike was growing, but it wasn't yet dominant. Adidas and Converse were still the kings of basketball. That changed with one man, Michael Jordan. Fresh out of college, Jordan was already a sensation. Every sports brand wanted him. Adidas, Converse, Reebok, they all made offers. Nike, however, did something bold. They didn't just offer Jordan money, they offered him a legacy. They proposed a brand built around his name, his image, his story. He'd get a cut of every sale, 5%, unheard of at the time. Thus, the Air Jordan line was born. And Nike didn't just make a great shoe, they made a statement. The first Air Jordans were banned by the NBA for violating uniform rules. Nike responded by paying Jordan's fines and launching a campaign with this message. The NBA threw them out. Fortunately, the NBA can't stop you from wearing them. It was genius, rebellious, cool. Sales exploded. Nike expected $3 million in the first year. They made over $150 million. Air Jordans weren't just for the court. They were for the streets. They helped create sneaker culture as we know it today. Collectibles, style statements, symbols of identity. Sneakers stopped being just for sports. They became fashion, expression, lifestyle. And Nike wasn't done. They signed stars across every sport: Serena Williams, Roger Federer, Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafael Nadal, LeBron James. Each deal was more than a sponsorship. It was a co-branded empire. Nike became not just the biggest name in sportswear, but in sports. But the story isn't all victory laps. In the 1990s, Nike came under fire for poor labor conditions in factories across Southeast Asia. Reports of sweatshops, child labor, and abusive environments sparked global outrage. Nike's image took a major hit. The company responded slowly at first, but eventually took action. cutting ties with abusive suppliers, setting global labor standards, and opening factory inspections to third parties. By the early 2000s, Nike had become a case study in corporate responsibility. The damage had been done, but steps were taken. In recent years, Nike has also leaned into sustainability. Programs like Nike Grind recycle old shoes into new materials. The company encourages returns and reuse, and has pushed for transparency in its global supply chain. Still, challenges remain. Fast fashion, climate impact, and ethical manufacturing are ongoing issues for every global apparel brand, including Nike. But in terms of brand power, Nike stands tall. In 2024 alone, Nike generated over $50 billion in revenue. What started as a side hustle selling shoes from a trunk is now the most recognized sports brand on earth. Nike's story is not just about shoes, it's about belief. Belief that a college runner and his coach could challenge global giants. Belief that a simple logo drawn for $35 could one day become a global icon. Belief that greatness isn't born. It's made, one step at a time. From the track fields of Oregon to the bright lights of NBA arenas, from Olympic stadiums to everyday sidewalks, Nike built more than a brand. It built a movement. One that told people they didn't have to be the fastest, the strongest, or the most talented, just willing to try, willing to fail, willing to get up again. Just do it isn't just a slogan. It's a mindset, a rebellion against hesitation, a challenge to self-doubt. It tells you to leap before you're ready, to push through the pain, to silence the voice that says you can't. That's why Nike resonates not only with athletes, but with dreamers, strivers, and everyday people facing their own personal mountains, whether on a track, in an office, or in life. Even those who don't play sports still wear the swoosh, not because of what it says about their physical ability, but because of what it represents: ambition, independence, confidence. Nike has become a badge not just of athleticism, but of identity, of attitude, of motion. And like motion, the story of Nike is still unfolding. It's not a perfect story. There were missteps, controversies, and reckonings. But it's a story of resilience, of evolution, of a brand that learned, changed, and kept moving forward. In a world full of noise, distractions, and doubt, Nike cuts through with a simple, powerful message. You don't need to be an Olympian to chase greatness. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. You just need to start. Just do it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to check out our other deep dives into legendary American companies, because behind every logo, every slogan, and every step, there's a story worth telling. And remember, some stories start with an idea, others start with a spark, but this one started with a single step and ended up walking the earth 6 times.